back to the show, everybody, and I am so glad that you joined me today because it is day 6, and day 6 is floor day. Yes, that's right, our flooring came in, I was able to go pick it up, and I got that floor installed. So, let's just jump right into the episode, and you can see what I was doing in bathroom, and then we'll come back and talk about what it took for me to get it done. Okay, so what we're going to be using for our flooring is a rigid core vinyl plank flooring. This one here is made by Lifeproof, which is sold, I believe it's exclusive, but it's sold through Home Depot. Not sure if you guys have a Home Depot in your area, but it's a very affordable vinyl flooring. It's solid core. If you want to look at the pieces of it, you can see right here that it's got quite a decent thickness to it. Let me see if I can get that a little bit more in focus here. So it's got a decent thickness to it. It's basically like a tongue and groove. You've got this tongue side right here. There's a groove in it right there. And then on the other side, you have this lip that goes over it. And so they basically click together. It's like a click-lock flooring system. But unlike the old laminate, all right, I've put down wood laminate flooring before. Unlike wood laminate, this stuff is basically a solid core. Now, if you look down here, you can see that it's about 6 millimeters thick. That's what the packaging says, and that's your wear layer. So right there is the amount of wear that can go into this floor before it will show through to the core, which is this gray layer right here. The flooring also has a padding on the back, so this is like a rubber layer of padding. And this will also, it will provide a little bit of cushion, so that when you're stepping on it, it doesn't feel like you're stepping on cement or anything like that, I suppose, if you were putting it down over cement. This is going down over wood, so that's not going to be as noticeable, but I'm sure that if you put this on a cement floor, it would be it would be noticeable that you're not stepping directly on cement. Then that little bit, a couple mil layer of rubber is going to just give a little bit of softness to your floor. So my wife wanted this very light color, which is pretty much the lightest color that Lifeproof produces, because she did want white walls in the bathroom. We're having more of a light tone to the entire bathroom. Everything is going to be pretty much white except for the vanity and the medicine cabinet, which is going to be going right back here. That's why I didn't take those out yet. But then again, I'm probably going to have to take those out anyway because I will be installing the brick wall over the top of them, and I'll need to access those screws again. So if I can cut a small hole in the brick wall to access those, and that way I don't have to pull them out, that'd be great. We'll see if I can do that. But getting back to the floor, this is basically a click-lock flooring system. You kind of pound them in place. I'll show you how they go in. I'll take some photos and videos, hopefully, as I go along if I can. But it's going to be a very simple process. It basically goes straight down on the floor. What you want to make sure is that your floor is smooth. You want to make sure your floor is relatively level. And you want to also make sure that your floor is very clean. Those are the tips that I've learned in laying regular laminate flooring when I laid wood laminate. The main difference between wood laminate and this is just, I'm sure the higher quality wood laminate is very high quality, but the wood laminate that I had laid in the past was very low quality, and it would bubble up. If you got it wet, it would bubble up because there's like a MDF layer, just pressed cardboard type wood layer underneath a very thin laminate of wood. And if that ever got wet, it would cause it to bubble and expand. And then wherever there were cracks in the floor, you would see little bubbles. And that was just, it was just very ugly. We have that on our first floor, and I'm going to be pulling all that out, probably replacing it with this vinyl plank as well. Because this is vinyl and not wood, not any kind of compressed sawdust of any sort like that, you're not going to have that expansion. You're not going to have that bubbling effect in the event any water gets in each of these cracks. However, it does say that this Lifeproof flooring is waterproof. So if these are installed correctly, the system here should not allow any water to seep underneath through these gaps. That is the claim. We're going to see how well that is, how well that works over time. This is a brand new subfloor, and I even put clear silicone down here. I know you can't see it because it's clear, but there's a layer of clear silicone right here on the subfloor, between the subfloor and the tub. And then when I lay this vinyl flooring, I'm also going to put another layer of clear silicone along the tub line, and I'll probably even extend that a little bit over this way, so that in the event any water splashes out of the tub, it's not going to be able to get through the flooring or through any cracks to damage the subfloor anymore. I really hope that this flooring is going to be waterproof. I mean, it claims that it is. I'm sure even the manufacturer would say to not let standing water sit on it for any length of time. But, even if you have some splash over from, if you have, say, a shower that has a shower head, and sometimes that gets turned, and you got water flying over off of your shower and hitting the floor, in the time that it would take for you to mop that up, I'm guessing that it's not going to seep through these edges, but we will see when it does get installed. So we had to order this. As I said, this was not a stock item. I don't know if it's out of stock or if it's just not popular in our area. So we had it delivered to our local Home Depot. So we had that. This is not a stock item. This particular color was not in stock in our location. I don't know if it's because it is being discontinued or because maybe this color is not popular in our area. I'm not sure. The employee at the store stated that there was no, they don't remember ever having this color. So it is possible that this is either discontinued and has been for a while, or it very well could be just not popular in this region. So we had to have this shipped in from California. It's a very pretty color. I really like it. It's got more gray in it than other lighter floors. Some lighter floors have some of this color, but it also has brown worked into it, and that's not what my wife wants. So happy wife, happy life, and we are going to get this floor put down today. All right, so I apologize for the echo on this because I am in a small room. Just giving you guys a little bit of an update here. I'm going to see if I can zoom out a little bit. There we go. I'm giving you guys a little bit of an update here on how the floor is going. It's been about an hour of work. I'm taking my time, particularly in the beginning here. I mean, I don't have that much to do. It's only a 25 square foot space. But basically, to give you an idea of how this works, is you have each plank. So you have each plank, and they're 4 feet long. And like, here is one full plank right here. And you start, when you lay the flooring, you want to lay it in a way that makes the room look as big as possible. And because this is a very small bathroom, my thought is that, since it's only 5 feet from the door to the bathtub, if I put it along the longest wall, it will elongate the room and make it look as big as I can. But so I decided to go this direction. And as you walk in the room, the traffic flows into the room, you flow towards the bathtub, and the floor just kind of goes with it. So that's the way I chose to do this. But the planks are 4 feet long, and I was able to start with a full plank on the first one. And what I had to do is cut down here. You can see in this area, I had to cut around this edge right there. Don't worry about all of this material here. That's all going to get filled in with caulk and silicone. So you don't have to worry about that. But I got it as close as I could, but you always want to leave yourself a little bit of a gap. So I have these spacers placed every foot or so. That gives me just a little bit of gap between the wall or the trim and the first piece. So that little bit of gap is a little bit for expansion. Now apparently vinyl does not expand, but you still want to leave a little bit of a gap in the event you ever have to change a piece out. You can always shift them one direction to get a piece out. So I have left a little bit of a gap there, and you can see there's a little bit of a gap along the bathtub, about 1/8 of an inch along the bathtub. And I've got 3 rows down plus the 4th. I'm working on the next piece right now. How these basically work is you have a groove right here, or with a little tongue that sticks out, and you can feel there's a little groove in this tongue. And on the other piece, if you look at the other pieces, I have a sample right here. Look at this piece. It has a little bit of a groove cut out right here. So this is just an example, and all you have to do in order to get this together is move it into place, lift it up a little bit, and then lock it down, and then it's locked into place. And then once it's in place, what you want to do is, I bought a tool kit. The tool kit has a pounding block, as well as a puller, this device right here. I haven't had to use that yet, but basically if you have to move a piece away from the wall, you can place this in here and then use a soft hammer, like so, to hit, and as you hit, it actually pulls the plank that way. I haven't had to do that just yet, but in this particular instance, once you have the piece laying down, you can kind of see that there's still a little bit of gap left in there. So what you do is you take your pounding block, set it up on there. You can see there's a little bit of a ridge in there. You take your pounding block and get that into place, and then basically you take your rubber mallet and you hit it like that. And as you hit it, you knock it right into the groove and it locks it into place. Now the locking portion, I see because I'm having a hard time getting it out now. There we go. There. So once you lock it into place, it's basically locked between these 2 pieces. And there's also a lock between this edge and this edge. So once they're down, you're not going to be able to get underneath and lift them up. So basically, that's how I get the floor down so far. Like I said, it's taken me about an hour because the first plank along the longest wall, when you get your first one down, that is the hardest one to get down because you want to make sure that it's nice and square with everything else. Because once this first row is down, the rest of them just kind of click-lock into place. But this one always takes a little more time, partially because I had to make that cut in the corner, and partially because I wanted to make sure that this was square, even if the wall had a little bit of a bow to it. So, as you can see, right now I have this much done. And I'm now working on this piece right along here. I probably have about that much more to go once I get that piece in. So I still have, there are 7 planks in one box. And so far I've only used 5 planks. So that means I've got 2 left. One will go right here. And then one will sit right down here. And once I get that, I will then finish off. That first box will be finished off, and I'll start on my second. That particular tool right there will come in handy when I get to this side of the wall, when I need to tap the pieces so that they lock into the board next to it. Over here, I didn't have to worry about that because it's up against the wall. But as I'm working this direction, I'll need to use this at the wall in order to get it to lock in place. So that looked pretty good, didn't it? You know, I've never laid vinyl plank flooring myself. I've actually laid the wood laminate flooring before, but I've never really done vinyl plank. And the process is pretty similar. The main difference between the two is the vinyl plank has that like little tongue and groove click lock system where they lock together, whereas the hardwood plank flooring, that just kind of just slides into place. It doesn't really have a clicking system. But in any case, I am just very happy with the results on this. You know, when you're choosing your floor, you have to be conscious of, you know, the cost involved and what it's going to cost for you to refinish your floor. And also you have to be conscious of how much you're going to have to purchase in order to get the job done. You know, so when you're choosing a floor, at least for us anyway, I went with the vinyl plank because it's in a bathroom. It's going to get wet, and I needed something that was going to be waterproof and it wasn't going to expand and contract when it got wet. You know, with the hardwood laminate flooring, all right, it's still a laminated system. So underneath that beautiful top coat, you know, that you see when you're walking on it, is this layer of like an MDF or a compressed board, glue board type material. And that stuff can expand and contract when it gets wet, you know. And what we have the instance in our first floor of our house, the last owners put in that laminate hardwood, and whenever water got spilled on it, wherever the edges met, it would bubble up. You know, you might have noticed that if you have hardwood laminate yourself, especially if it's not the super high quality version, you might notice that you might have little bubble spots, and that's because the water has gotten in and caused the wood to swell. So it's something to consider. You know, if your flooring is going to be prone to getting wet, you might not want to go with something that, you know, is prone to swell like that. So in our case, bathroom, vinyl plank it was. You know, I didn't want to put in ceramic tile, so we went with the vinyl plank. As I said, this is my first time installing it, and let me tell you, it was super easy to do. There was no problems at all. I had very little waste left over. Really, a majority of the waste was just the rest of the package I had left over. The amount of material I actually had left over was probably about that much of the, you know, pieces that I had cut. You know, it just very little waste, very easy to install, very easy to apply. And it was perfect for us. The one thing I want to make sure you understand when you're laying any kind of a flooring, be it the hardwood laminate or the vinyl plank flooring system, you want to make sure that your subfloor is stable, it is in good shape. You don't have anything like screws or nails popping up, things like that, because all that's going to make a difference in your final product. So make sure your subfloor is in really good shape before you go and put down your vinyl plank. Also, you want to make sure that it is, at least in my case, for my recommendation, make sure you seal it with some sort of silicone sealant or something if it's going to be near some areas where water can seep in, you know, especially up against the bathtub. You know, I didn't want the water to get underneath the vinyl plank and damage the subfloor. So not only did I put silicone caulk on the subfloor, I also put silicone caulk on top of the vinyl plank, in between where the vinyl plank butted up against the bathtub. I left about 1/8 of an inch of gap, you know, between the tub and the vinyl plank in the event that, you know, things need to shift or whatever. If vinyl expands, apparently it doesn't, but who knows? I left 1/8 of an inch there, and I wanted to fill that in with a little bit of silicone so that water would not get underneath it and cause any damage. So I would recommend personally, if you're going to be near any water source, put a little bead of silicone or something that can expand and contract with the floor or whatever. So in the event that the floor does move, it doesn't crack it or cause, seepage or anything like that. But I put a little bit of silicone there for that. But you want to make sure your floor is very smooth. You want to make sure that you have some sort of sealant there, my recommendation. And you want to make sure that your floor is very clean before you lay down your vinyl plank floor or your hardwood laminate floor, because anything that's down there, it's going to cause a bubble or it's going to cause an uneven floor, and you're going to feel it when you lay it down and when you go walking on it. So make sure it's completely clean. Sweep it up, vacuum it up, use your shop vac, whatever you need to do. Get that floor as clean as possible before you lay your floor. You'll be very happy you did it. Now, along the lines of direction, the direction that you travel with the planks, the recommendation that I've heard all over the place is to put your planks down along the longest wall of whatever room you're doing. And I think that's actually not a bad idea, because when you're doing that, number one, you're giving yourself a nice straight edge that you can build off of as you add your planks in. Okay? So it's a nice straight edge. And then number two, it makes your room look longer. That's what you want. You want your room to look bigger. So I would support that recommendation that you've probably heard on other websites or what have you. So I laid the plank along the longest bare wall in the room, which was, when you look at the video, it's on the left side. That's the longest bare wall. So it made the room look as long and as large as possible. But again, that's personal preference. I don't think there's any rule to that. You can put it in any way you want. You put it in on a diagonal if you want. Just don't forget that if you put something in on a diagonal, you're going to have extra waste at the end because of all the cutting you're going to have to do, But anyway, as I mentioned, the vinyl plank flooring has a click lock system, so it looks almost as if there's two different pieces or two different curves. There's a curve here and a curve here, and they lock into place, and then they can't come apart unless you lift them up and pull them out. You saw that in the video. You got to tap it into place for that lock to engage, and once it's engaged, it pretty much stays right where it's at. So I'm really happy with that. And then you also notice in the video that you have to get the seams out, because just because it locks in place doesn't mean it doesn't have the potential to have a little bit of a seam there. So the tongue and groove or the click lock type flooring system is very easy to use, very easy to install. I had no problems with that whatsoever. So the final thing I want to talk about is what tools I ended up having to use to install the floor, and so I'm going to go over that with you right now. The most basic tool that I had to use was obviously the rubber mallet, and that's what I had to use to tap everything into place. You don't want to use a metal hammer because you could potentially damage the flooring, be it the hardwood laminate or the vinyl plank. You don't want to damage it, so make sure you have yourself a rubber mallet. I have one laying around the house that I use for various things all the time. I did not have to purchase that. If you're going to be cutting your vinyl tile, you can cut your vinyl tile with a utility blade. However, I have to give this little caveat. I think I mentioned it in the video already, but I'm going to mention it again. If you're going to go trying to cut your vinyl plank with a utility blade, be incredibly careful, because you have to, this plank is hard. It's a rigid core. At least the one we installed is a rigid core. It is very, very hard. So in order to score that enough to snap it, I had to go over the spot multiple times in order to get that deep enough to crack it. Like I had to score it multiple times. I had to go over that spot. And so when you're using a utility blade, you're putting a lot of force down and a lot of force towards you. So when you're doing that, if you slip in any way, you can slip right into yourself and you're going to end up impaled by your utility blade. So please, please, please be careful if you're going to be using that technique to cut your vinyl plank flooring. I did that for about half the bathroom, and my blade got dull, and I got tired of having to score something 3, 4, 5 times to snap it. So what I ended up doing was I just pulled out my my saw. I have a chop saw or a a miter saw, and I just pulled that out, and boy, I mean, just a general standard blade. You don't have to have a special blade for it. What I used was a finish blade, so it's fine teeth, so it doesn't chop. But I just went right through it, just a couple of seconds, and I was done. That was what I used to cut the tile with. If you have a little edge that you need to nip off, I ended up using wire cutters. A little corner, like if you try to stick a corner in, but there's something underneath, a nail or a little piece of old flooring or something underneath your like your current trim or something like that, you gotta nip something off. These were able to nip off the edges or little corners with no problems at all. I had to use that maybe once or twice through the whole project, but keep that in mind. If you need to get a little edge off, those little wire snippers were perfectly fine for that. When you're cutting something, if you want to cut on a 90 or 45 degree angle, you want to make sure you have yourself a square. This one here is a combination square, so it allows you to cut on a 45 degree angle or measure on a 45 degree angle, or you can also do a 90 degree angle. This is a combination square. You can also use what's called a carpenter's speed square. Whatever you have that is nice and square at a 90 degree, because a lot of your cuts are going to be that way, and you want to be able to put it up against the piece of flooring and then make a straight line, whatever cut you need to make. So make sure you have one of these, something that gives you a nice 90 degree or 45 degree, depending on what you're doing. Make sure you have one of those. Now, the specialty kit that I purchased in order to install the vinyl floor was the flooring installation kit. This is made by Roberts. I picked this up at Home Depot, but I mean, I'm sure there are different companies that make these. And these are not specific to vinyl plank. These are for hardwood laminate. These are for all sorts of things, okay? They cost about $25 for a package like this. And it pretty much has all the tools you need in order to help you to get that floor installed correctly. I'm just going to show you the three main parts that came with it. Number one is the shim. The shim, in this particular case, it's thinner on one side and thicker than the other. I don't know what other tool kits might have, but this one had little wedge shims. And these shims allow you to give a little bit of space between wherever you're putting the vinyl plank and your wall or your toilet flange or whatever, and that gives you a little bit of space that you need at the edges and around things. You want to have that little bit of space. So these shims give you that little bit of space that you need. It also gives a little bit of stability, because once you, like if you lay the plank and you have your wall sitting here, and if you need to leave a gap, an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch, whatever you need to leave, and then you're going to put down your next piece to click it in place, if you tap on it with the hammer, you're actually going to move your first piece towards the wall. But by putting the shim in place, that stops the first plank from moving. And same goes for up against my tub. When I put the plank into the tub, I put the shim in place so that when I put the next piece on, I could tap it in place and not have that plank hit the tub wall. And that's what these are for. The next tool that comes in that kit is your tapping block. This has a little 90 degree wedge on the end, so I think it's pretty much a general tapping block. And you can put the vinyl plank underneath it, okay? And then when you tap on it with your rubber mallet, that allows you to knock the plank into place without damaging the edge of the plank in that tongue and groove system. So that's what you use this for. Now, if you don't purchase one of these kits, you could easily use a scrap piece of your vinyl plank and use that as a tapping block. Just note that you're probably not going to be able to use that to install anywhere. That's just going to be your scrap piece for tapping. But it came with that. It also came with this. And this device here is when you're putting your piece up against the wall, okay? You want to put your piece up against the wall, but you need to tap it this direction away from the wall. So what you do is you put the piece down and you put this on the edge, and then you tap on this side of the piece of metal. And as you tap, you actually close that gap between the two planks, because you do not want any gaps in those planks. And between this and this will stop any gaps from forming as you lay your planks out. So those are pretty much the only tools I needed, other than maybe a pencil to draw on things. Other than that, I mean, that was really it. This tool cost me $20 or $25 for this. Everything else I have in the house from work that I already do. So really, it was a simple process, easy to do, not really expensive to get the tools needed for it, which you don't really need these things either. If you don't want to buy these, you can actually apply this stuff without it, as long as you can figure out some other way of doing it, using a scrap piece for help. But it was so simple. It went very well. The entire process for that bathroom, again, 25 square foot for me. That's the size of the floor I had to install. Even considering I had to cut out the circle for the toilet flange, I had to cut around the opening of the door, cut little notches out of each piece for the door. I think it took me about an hour and a half. That was pretty much all it took me to get this entire project done. So it was very easy to do. The amount of flooring that I ended up purchasing was 2 packages. I purchased what did I call it? Lifeproof. The Lifeproof vinyl plank system, and each package comes with 20 square feet. Now, my bathroom is 25 square feet, so needless to say, I needed that extra 5 square feet, so I had to buy a second package. So anyway, I've got a whole bunch of leftover flooring, but you know what? If I ever damage this flooring, I have plenty left over to fit in a new piece, and there's no problem with that at all. But just make sure when you choose the amount of flooring you want, okay, make sure you measure the square footage of your room. In our case, it was 25 foot. Maybe your case is 100 square foot, whatever you have, okay? Measure that square footage, and then when you go to choose your floor, see how much is in each package. In the case of our Lifeproof flooring, there was 20 square foot per package, so I knew I needed 25, so I knew I needed at least 2 packages, and that's what I ended up purchasing. And it was very affordable. The entire floor, even considering all the leftover I had, only cost me about $125. And so it was a very inexpensive, affordable, easy option to install. It was a fun process to get that done, and I'm looking forward to doing more of those vinyl floors throughout the house, because it really looks pretty good when it's all said and done. You saw some of the pre-work I got done, but when I show you the final walkthrough, you'll be blown away at how nice that floor looks. So yeah, there you have it. I mean, that's all it takes to get that vinyl floor down. And again, I really appreciate you guys watching today, and I hope this gives you a little bit of encouragement to do this kind of project yourself. I am not a professional floor installer. I have done some hardwood laminate flooring a couple times in my life, but I am not a floor installer. And I've never in my life done a vinyl plank system. And so for me to be able to jump into that and get an entire room done in an hour and a half, that tells me that if I can do it in an hour and a half, you can do it too. So that is just one more way that you can make your home yours. And I highly encourage you to jump into a project like this after you've gotten a little bit of good advice, of course. And again, thank you so much for watching. Check out some of these videos right here, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless you.